Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today for our Monday Healing Step session here in the Bridge to Healing community. Now, if you're new here or watching for the first time, I'm Janine Naus, your grief and trauma relief specialist. I support trauma survivors in navigating the weight of grief, loss, and emotional pain with compassion, clarity, and hope. Now, before we dive in, I want to acknowledge something important. Every time you show up for these sessions, you're taking a step for yourself, a step towards awareness, toward healing, toward the possibility that things can feel different. And I know that's not always easy. So I want to honor the courage it takes just to be here. If you're catching the replay, go ahead and type pound replay in the comments. And if you're here live, say hello and type pound live. I'd love to know where you're joining me from. Now, this community grows stronger when we remind one another that we're not alone in this journey. So today's topic is inspired by something DeBoer said on a recent Down Home Fab show on HGTV. He said, "You can't grow if you say no." That sure made me think. Such a simple phrase, and yet it carries a really profound truth, because so often the no we give isn't to someone else, it's to ourselves. No to opportunities for healing, no to support, no to change. And every time we do, we're unknowingly keep ourselves locked in the same pain we desperately want to move beyond. So today we're going to explore together, why does saying no feel safer? Why does it really cost us? And how can we begin saying yes, even in the smallest ways, that open the door to growth, to peace, and to reclaiming the life we long for? So let's start with why saying no so often feels the safest option, even when part of us longs to say yes. Now, when you've lived through trauma, your nervous system becomes wired for survival, and survival often means staying in the familiar, even if that familiar place is painful. So think about it. When something unpredictable once meant danger, your body learned that the unknown was not safe. So now, when you're offered something new, a supportive conversation, a healing tool, a chance to be seen, your system may sound the alarm. Saying no feels like control. It feels like protecting yourself from risk. It feels like putting up a shield that keeps you from being blindsided. And for a long time, that shield probably served you, and it may have kept you safe when your world was filled with uncertainty. This is why so many survivors hesitate, even when they long for change. And that hesitation isn't laziness or lack of willpower, it's a survival pattern. It's your body's way of whispering, "Stay here. At least here, I know what to expect." But here's the painful truth. What feels safe isn't always the same as being safe. Sometimes staying in the familiar is exactly what keeps the pain alive. It's like living in a locked room. Yes, the walls might feel predictable, but they also keep you from fresh air, new light, or the possibility of something better. And this is where the tension lies, because part of you desperately wants change, while another part of you believes it's too risky to try. And this inner tug of war is exhausting, and it can leave you feeling stuck, confused, and frustrated with yourself. But I want you to hear this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling this way. Your nervous system is doing what it's designed to do, protect you. And the fact that you're even noticing this pattern shows how much wisdom and strength you already have. So let's pause here together. Have you ever noticed yourself saying no to something you actually wanted because deep down it felt too risky, too big, or too uncomfortable? Maybe you said no to asking for help, even though you were tired of carrying it all alone. Maybe you said no to rest, even though your body was begging for it. Maybe you said no to sharing your truth because you weren't sure how others would respond. If that resonates, I'd love for you to drop a yes in the comments or simply notice quietly within yourself. There's no right or wrong way to respond. Just the act of noticing is already a powerful first step. On the surface, saying no can feel like stability. It feels like you're keeping things under control, holding the pieces together, and protecting yourself from what feels uncertain. But underneath, every no you whisper to yourself has a cost. And those costs aren't always obvious at first. They often pile up quietly over time until you feel heavy, stuck, or even hopeless. So every time we say no to support, we silently reinforce the belief that we must carry everything on our own, that our needs are a burden, that asking for help makes us weak. Every time we say no to rest, we reinforce the lie that our worth is tied to how much we do, how much we give, or how perfectly we perform. And every time we say no to opportunities for healing, we reinforce the story that we're not ready, not deserving, or not enough. And here's the hard truth. Those small no's begin to add up. They keep us locked in the same cycles of stress, grief, or shame. They keep us bracing for the past instead of building a new future. And they leave us watching life from the sidelines instead of stepping into the fullness of who we are meant to be. And saying no may seem safer, but it can quietly deepen the wounds we already carry. It's like replaying the old messages of trauma without even realizing it. And we end up telling ourselves, I'm not worth the risk of change. I don't deserve something better. Staying here is all I can hope for. But here's what I want you to remember. Every time you say yes, even in the smallest way, you create an opening. You make space for something new to take root. Growth requires that space, like soil needing room for a seed to sprout. And if it only takes one yes to begin that process, and I know how hard that yes can feel because I've been there. I've lived through seasons where I felt where I didn't feel safer, where the idea of opening myself up to change felt terrifying. But I also know what can happen when you begin to shift. So let me share a personal story about my own hesitation with yes and what began to change when I finally allowed myself to try. I want to be really honest with you here. See, because I know sometimes it can feel like I'm sitting on the other side of healing, telling you what to do. But the truth is, I've wrestled with this exact struggle. There were seasons in my life when I said no again and again. No to support, no to letting people in, no to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, things could be different for me. I told myself I wasn't ready. I told myself maybe later. I told myself I had to be stronger before I could even think about healing. But underneath those reasons, what I was really feeling was fear. Fear of what saying yes might bring up. Fear of facing emotions I had worked so hard to bury. Fear of being disappointed again. Fear that maybe if I tried, it wouldn't work, and then I'd really feel broken. So I clung to the no, because no felt safer. It felt like control. It kept me in the familiar, even when that familiar was painful. But here's what I discovered. Every no also keeps me disconnected from the life I long for, from the ease, the love, the peace I so deeply craved. And eventually the weight of staying stuck became heavier than the risk of change. And that's when I began to experiment with yes. Not big, sweeping yeses at first, but tiny ones. Yes to writing down what I was feeling, even when the words came out messy. Yes to sharing one honest sentence with someone I trusted, even if it made my voice shake. Yes to believing, just for a moment, that I was worthy of more than survival. And slowly, something shifted. Each yes became like a small crack in the armor I had built around myself. And those cracks, light started to come through. Healing didn't arrive all at once. It was more like tiny drops of water seeping into dry ground. But each yes made space for life to grow again. And that's why I want to remind you today, your yes doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be loud or public or polished. It just has to be yours. And even the smallest yes can begin to change everything. So now that we've looked at why saying no can feel safer, what it costs us, and even how I hesitated with yes, I want to guide you on into something you can begin practicing today. Here's the truth. When you've lived in survival mode, your nervous system has learned that new equals danger. That's why even small steps forward can feel overwhelming. But the beautiful thing is this, your nervous system also learns through safety. It can be rewired slowly and gently through repeated experiences of choosing something different and discovering that you're still okay. That's why I invite you to practice giving yourself a small yes, not a huge leap, not something that floods you with fear, but just a single, manageable yes that your body and heart can hold. Think of one area of your life right now where you've been hesitating, something that you long for, but keep telling yourself, not yet. Maybe it's yes to resting without guilt for 10 minutes. Maybe it's yes to saying no to an invitation that feels draining. Maybe it's yes to speaking one honest sentence about how you're really doing. And then maybe it's yes to journaling the feelings you've been holding inside. See, your yes does not have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It just has to belong to you. And here's why this matters. Every small step gives your nervous system proof that moving forward doesn't have to equal danger. Each yes creates a moment of safety where your body can exhale, your heart can soften, and your spirit can begin to trust growth again. Think of it like building a bridge. Every yes is a plank laid down. At first, it might feel wobbly, but with each step, that bridge becomes stronger until one day you realize you're standing on solid ground that you built by choosing yourself. So let's anchor this practice even more deeply. And one of the most powerful ways to give yourself space to reflect and to notice what's really going on inside is through journaling. I'm going to share a simple journaling prompt with you now, and then I'll go ahead and repeat it slowly so you can write it down if you like. So journaling can be such a powerful tool on your healing journey. And here's why. When we write things down, we move thoughts and emotions out of the swirl in our heads and give them a safe place to land. And it slows down the racing mind, signals to the nervous system that there is space to process, and allows us to see truths that often stay hidden when they're only inside us. Writing is also private. It doesn't demand that you share with anyone else. It's a conversation between you and yourself. And that in itself can feel grounding and liberating. So here's today's prompt. Take a moment to write down what is one small yes I've been afraid to give myself, and what might change if I allowed it. So I'll go ahead and repeat that again so you can write it down. What is one small yes I've been afraid to give myself? And what might change if I allowed? Beautiful. Now, when you sit with this question, don't rush. Let yourself notice what arises without judgment. Maybe your yes feels tiny, like pausing for a breath before answering someone. Maybe it feels bigger, like reaching out for help. Whatever it is, it matters. If writing feels uncomfortable at first, start with just a few words. You might be surprised how much begins to surface once you give your body and mind permission to speak on the page. And remember, you don't have to have all the answers in one sitting. Sometimes journaling is less about finding the solution and more about allowing your truth to come forward gently, piece by piece. So as you reflect on this journaling prompt, notice how even the act of writing can become one small yes. A yes to slowing down, a yes to listening to yourself, a yes to making room for healing. And if you're ready to take another small yes, I'd love to invite you into a safe space where we can explore together. So as we close today, I want to remind you of something important. Healing isn't about giant leaps. It's about the small yeses, the little choices that begin to shift the story you've been carrying. And if today's conversation stirred something in you, if you felt that longing for change, but also the hesitation that comes with it, I want to offer you one of those small yeses. I offer what I call a healing connection. It's a no-fee clarity call. Now it's a 30-minute space that's just for you, no pressure, no expectations, simply a safe and compassionate place where you can share what's been weighing on your heart. And then during this time together, you'll be able to talk openly about one challenge you're facing right now, and I'll listen deeply, and then I'll offer a gentle reflection and one practical next step you can take immediately. Something simple but meaningful that can begin to shift how you feel. This isn't about fixing everything in half an hour. It's about honoring your story, helping you feel less alone, and giving you a little clarity about what your next step might look like. Sometimes just having someone hold space with you can be the beginning of a very different journey. If that resonates, the link is in the comments below. So consider this your invitation to say yes, not to me, but to yourself, because your healing matters. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is take that first small step forward. So thank you so much for being with me here today. And remember, you can't grow if you say no. Even the smallest yes can begin to change everything. I look forward to seeing you in our next Monday Healing Step session. And until then, be gentle with yourself. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.